I hadn't been home for Christmas in 5 years. There were always good excuses: work commitments, travel plans, a girlfriend whose family lived closer. But if I'm being honest, I was avoiding it. I just couldn't figure out why until I was already driving back into Pinehaven on Christmas Eve, watching the familiar streets slide past my window in the dark. The town looked exactly the same. Same old diner on Main Street with the flickering neon sign. Same hardware store that somehow stayed in business despite the Home Depot 2 towns over. Same massive pine tree in the town square, strung with lights that had been there since I was a kid. Everything was exactly as I remembered it, down to the smell of wood smoke and snow in the air. But something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was just the weight of being back after so long. Or maybe it was the way the streets seemed too empty for Christmas Eve. The houses all had their lights up, their wreaths on the doors, but I only saw a handful of cars parked in driveways. For a town that supposedly loved Christmas, it felt abandoned. I pulled into my childhood home around 8 at night. The house looked smaller than I remembered, the way childhood places always do. Mum had left the porch light on for me, and I could see her silhouette moving past the kitchen window. My stomach twisted with guilt. 5 years. I'd made her spend 5 Christmases alone. She met me at the door before I could even knock, pulling me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. When she pulled back, I could see how much she'd aged. More grey in her hair, more lines around her eyes. But it was the look in those eyes that caught me. Something tense, almost fearful. "I'm so glad you're here," she said, ushering me inside quickly and locking the door behind us. "Did you eat? I made pot roast." We fell into easy conversation over dinner, catching up on the last year. She asked about my job, my apartment, whether I was seeing anyone. I asked about her book club, the garden, whether Old Man Peterson was still giving everyone grief at the town meetings. Normal stuff. But I could feel her watching me, like she was waiting for something. It happened at exactly 9:47. A sound cut through the night, a deep, wailing siren that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It wasn't like a tornado warning or an ambulance. This was lower, more resonant, almost mournful. It vibrated in my chest, made my teeth ache. The sound filled the entire house, the entire world, drowning out everything else. I dropped my fork. "What the hell is that?" Mom's face had gone pale. She stood up quickly, moving to the window to check that the curtains were fully closed. "Just a siren. Nothing to worry about." "Nothing to worry about? It sounds like the apocalypse." "It's just a town thing." She wouldn't look at me. "Been happening forever. You probably don't remember." But I did remember. The moment she said it, something clicked in my brain. I could picture myself as a kid, lying in bed on Christmas Eve, hearing that same sound. The memory had been there all along, buried so deep I'd forgotten it existed. How do you forget something like that? The siren wailed for exactly 3 minutes, then cut off abruptly. The silence that followed felt almost as oppressive as the noise had been. "Mom, what was that really?" "I told you, just an old siren. Now let's clean up dinner, and we should both get to bed. Big day tomorrow." She was already gathering plates, moving too fast, keeping busy. I helped her with the dishes, but the easy comfort from earlier was gone. She kept glancing at the clock, at the windows. When we finished, she walked through the entire house checking that every door was locked, every window latched. I watched her from the hallway, confused. "Mom, are you okay?" "Fine, honey. Just stay inside tonight, okay? Don't go out for any reason." "Why would I go out? It's almost 10 at night on Christmas Eve." She kissed my forehead like I was 8 years old again. "Good. Get some sleep. I love you." I went upstairs to my old room, but I couldn't sleep. Something about that siren had lodged itself in my brain, vibrating there like an echo that wouldn't fade. I lay in bed staring at the glow in the dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling in middle school, trying to remember. Why had I forgotten about the siren? Why had coming home felt so wrong? Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Through my cracked door, I watched Mum check the locks again, testing each window, peering out through the curtains into the dark street. She looked terrified. I didn't sleep much that night. Christmas morning felt off from the moment I woke up. Mum was already dressed and downstairs by the time I came down at 7, and I found her standing at the living room window, staring out at the street. "Merry Christmas," I said. She jumped, hand to her chest. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?" "Not really. You?" "Fine. Just fine." But the dark circles under her eyes told a different story. We went through the motions of Christmas morning, opening presents, drinking coffee, pretending everything was normal. But when I suggested we take a drive to look at the neighborhood lights, she made an excuse about needing to prep food for lunch at Aunt Linda's. The drive to my aunt's house was strange. It was 10 in the morning on Christmas Day, but the streets were nearly empty. A few cars here and there, but most houses looked dark, closed up. I didn't see any kids outside playing with new toys, no families taking walks. It felt like a ghost town. Aunt Linda and Uncle Rich's house was warm and decorated within an inch of its life, but the same tension hung in the air. My cousin Emma was there with her husband, and everyone hugged me and said how good it was to see me, but their smiles didn't reach their eyes. We sat down to lunch, and the conversation stayed carefully surface level. Work, weather, football scores. Nobody mentioned the siren. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "So, that siren last night. That was weird, right?" The table went completely silent. Aunt Linda froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. Uncle Rich stared down at his plate. "Nathan," Mom said quietly, "not now. I'm just asking what it was. It's not a normal thing." Uncle Rich cleared his throat. "It's just the old factory whistle. Nothing to worry about. Been doing that for years. The factory's been closed for 15 years. Well, the whistle still works, I guess." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "More turkey, anyone?" The subject was closed. We finished lunch making awkward small talk, and I helped Emma with the dishes while everyone else moved to the living room. "Emma, what's the deal with the siren?" I asked quietly. She scrubbed a plate with more force than necessary. "Drop it, Nathan. Why won't anyone just tell me what it is?" "Because some things are better left alone." She rinsed the plate and set it in the drying rack. "You've been gone 5 years. Maybe you should have stayed gone." That stung. "What's that supposed to mean?" But she just shook her head and walked away. I left my aunt's house more unsettled than when I'd arrived. Something was deeply wrong in Pine Haven, and everyone was in on it except me. Or maybe I had been in on it once, and I'd forgotten. The thought made my skin crawl. I needed answers, so I drove to the corner store to grab some beer and clear my head. The place was almost empty except for the clerk and one other customer, a woman about my age, standing by the refrigerated section, staring blankly at the rows of drinks. "Excuse me," I said, reaching past her for a six-pack. She jumped like I'd screamed at her. "Sorry, I was just—" "No worries." I got a better look at her. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and a tightness around her mouth. "You okay?" "Did you hear it?" she asked suddenly. "Last night, the siren. Finally, someone willing to talk about it." "Yeah, I heard it. What is it?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's what I've been asking for 3 years. Nobody will tell me. I'm Beth, by the way. I married someone from here." "Nathan. I grew up here, but I've been gone for a while." "Lucky you. I wish I could leave." She looked around nervously, like someone might be listening. "My husband won't talk about it. Gets angry when I bring it up. But every Christmas Eve, that thing goes off, and every Christmas morning." She stopped, biting her lip. "What? Every Christmas morning what?" "Someone's gone. Someone's house is empty. But nobody talks about it. It's like they never existed." I felt cold despite the warm store. "What do you mean, gone?" "I mean, gone. Vanished. And everyone acts like they were never there in the first place." She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Check the Riverside neighborhood. Old Miller House on Maple Street, the Kowalski place on River Road. They're empty. Nobody talks about them anymore. But I remember. I remember there were people living there. Maybe they just moved away. In the middle of the night, leaving everything behind." She let go of my arm. "I shouldn't even be talking about this. My husband says I'm crazy, says I'm remembering wrong, but I'm not. I know what I saw." She grabbed a random bottle from the shelf and hurried to the checkout, leaving me standing there with my six-pack and a growing sense of dread. I told myself I was just curious, that I was checking it out to prove to myself that Beth was wrong, that she was just a newcomer who didn't understand small-town life. But as I drove toward Riverside, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. The Miller House on Maple Street was a 2-story colonial with faded blue paint. The lawn was overgrown, and there were no cars in the driveway. What caught my attention were the Christmas decorations, old ones, weathered by years of rain and snow, still hanging from the eaves. A wreath on the door that looked like it had been there for multiple winters. I parked and walked up to the front window, cupping my hands to peer inside. The furniture was still there. A couch, a coffee table, a TV on a stand, pictures on the walls, a jacket hung over the back of a chair. But everything had a thin layer of dust, like nobody had been there in years. On the wall, I could see a calendar hanging in the kitchen, and I pressed my face closer to the glass to read it. December, 4 years ago. My heart was pounding now. I went back to my car and drove to River Road, to the Kowalski house. Same thing. Decorations from years past, furniture visible through the windows, everything frozen in time. The newspaper box at the end of the driveway was stuffed full of yellowed, decomposing papers. It was getting dark. The sun was setting earlier this time of year, and shadows were stretching long across the empty streets. I needed to get back to the car, back home, but I couldn't stop staring at that house. What had happened to these people? Where had they gone? A light flickered on in the house next door, and I saw a curtain twitch. Someone was watching me. Time to go. I drove back to Mum's house too fast, my mind racing. When I burst through the front door, she was in the kitchen making tea, and she dropped the kettle when she saw my face. "Nathan, what's wrong? Tell me about Dad." Her face crumpled. "Nathan, tell me the truth this time. He didn't just leave, did he?" She sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly looking much older than her 56 years. "How did you know? Just tell me what happened." She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "You were 8. It was Christmas Eve, and your father had been drinking. He hated the siren, always had. That night, when it went off, he started yelling about how he was going to find out where it was coming from and shut it up once and for all. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. He went out the door and..." She wiped her eyes. "He never came back." The room felt like it was tilting. "What do you mean, never came back?" "I called the police. They looked for him, but they never found anything. No body, no sign of him. After a few weeks, everyone started saying he'd left us, that he'd run off with someone or just couldn't handle being a father anymore. They told me it would be easier for you if I just said he'd left. So that's what I did." She looked up at me, drops streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have told you the truth. The siren took him." No, Nathan. It wasn't the siren. It was just a coincidence. Your father was drunk and angry, and he probably just... Something happened. An accident. But you don't believe that." She didn't answer, which was answer enough. "That's why you wanted me to stay inside last night. That's why everyone locks their doors. That's why the whole town is terrified." I was pacing now, trying to make sense of it. Those empty houses, the people who vanished, it's all connected to the siren, isn't it? "Nathan, please, I need you to promise me something." She stood up and grabbed both my hands. "Tonight, when it happens again, and it will happen again at 9:47, I need you to promise me you'll stay inside. Don't go to the window. Don't look outside. And whatever you do, don't open the door." "Mom, what is it? What's out there?" "I don't know. I don't want to know. I just know that people who go outside during the siren don't come back." She squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "Promise me." I promised. I couldn't sleep again that night. Couldn't even pretend to. I sat in the living room with Mum, both of us watching the clock creep toward 9:47. She'd closed every curtain in the house, checked every lock 3 times. The house felt like a fortress, or maybe a prison. "Why does it happen?" I asked around 9:30. "Why every Christmas Eve?" "I don't know. It's been happening since before I was born. My mother remembered it from when she was a girl. Her mother remembered it too. It's just part of Pinehaven." "Did it always take people?" "Not always. Sometimes years would go by and everyone would be fine. But sometimes, she trailed off, staring at the clock. 9:35. The temperature in the house seemed to drop. I could see my breath in the air, even though the thermostat said it was 70 degrees. Outside, the streetlights started flickering. 9:40. Complete silence fell. No wind, no distant cars, no sound of the furnace or the refrigerator humming, just silence, pressing in from all sides. 9:45. Mum gripped my hand. I could feel her trembling, or maybe I was the one shaking. It was hard to tell. 9:47. The siren started. It was so much louder than the night before. It filled the entire house, the entire world, vibrating in my bones and teeth and skull. But this time, it didn't just sound like a noise. It sounded like a voice, like something calling to me specifically, saying my name under the wail. Nathan, Nathan, come outside. Come and see. I stood up without meaning to. My body was moving on its own, drawn toward the front door like a magnet. Nathan, no! Mum grabbed my arm, but I barely felt it. The pull was overwhelming. Every cell in my body screamed at me to open that door, to walk outside, to follow the sound. It promised answers, understanding, an end to all the confusion and fear. All I had to do was step outside. My hand was on the doorknob. Nathan, please. Mum was crying, pulling at me with all her strength. Please don't leave me. Not you too. Her voice cut through the fog in my brain. I blinked, looking down at my hand on the doorknob. What was I doing? I stumbled backward, and Mum caught me. We collapsed onto the couch together, and she held me like I was a child again, both of us shaking. But the pull was still there, dragging at me like invisible hooks in my flesh. Through a gap in the curtains, I could see shapes moving in the street, people walking toward the sound of the siren. Not walking, gliding. Their movements were wrong, too smooth, like they weren't quite touching the ground. Their faces were slack, empty, eyes staring at nothing. I recognized one of them. Old Mr. Hanson, who used to live 3 doors down. Everyone said he'd moved to Florida to be near his daughter 5 years ago. But there he was, wearing the same cardigan I remembered him wearing every Sunday, moving down the street with that horrible empty expression. Do you see him? I whispered. Mum wouldn't look. Don't watch. Don't look at them. But I couldn't look away. More people were emerging from houses, joining the procession. Some I recognized, some I didn't, all moving in the same direction, following the siren's call. Then I understood. The people who'd vanished, they hadn't gone anywhere. They were still here in Pine Haven, still answering the call every Christmas Eve, walking through the streets like ghosts, and nobody talked about them because nobody wanted to admit what happened. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that their neighbors, their friends, their family members had become whatever those things were. Mom, my voice cracked. This happens every year. Those people outside, they do this every year. I don't know. I never look. I never go outside during the siren. That's the rule. That's how you survive. Did Dad look like that? Is he out there somewhere? She made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. I don't know. I hope not. I hope he's really gone. Not that. The siren reached a crescendo, so loud I thought my eardrums would burst. The pull was excruciating. I could feel myself starting to stand again, and Mum held on tighter, pressing my face against her shoulder so I couldn't see the door. Then I heard it, scratching at the front door. Long, slow scrapes, like fingernails on wood. "Nathan." A voice outside, muffled but recognizable. "Nathan, come out. I've been waiting for you." It was my father's voice. I hadn't heard it in 20 years, but I knew it instantly. "Don't listen," Mum whispered. "It's not him. It's not really him. Nathan, your mother lied to you. I didn't leave. I'm right here. I've always been here. Come see me. Come outside." My whole body was rigid with the effort of staying still. I wanted to open that door more than I'd ever wanted anything in my life. I wanted to see my father again, to know he hadn't abandoned us, to understand what happened to him. The scratching grew louder, more insistent. "Just open the door, son. Just for a moment. Don't you want to see me?" "He's gone," Mum was saying. "He's gone. And that thing isn't him. Your father loved you. He wouldn't do this." The siren reached its peak, and then silence. 9:50. It was over. The streetlights steadied. The temperature in the house slowly returned to normal. The scratching at the door stopped. I could hear the furnace kick back on, the refrigerator humming, normal sounds of a normal house. But nothing felt normal. I sat there with Mum, both of us holding each other and crying, and I knew that nothing would ever feel normal again. I woke up on Boxing Day feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle ached, and I had a splitting headache. When I made it downstairs, Mum was making breakfast with shaking hands. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Like hell. Is it always like that?" "The first time back is the hardest." She set a plate of eggs in front of me. "Not everyone makes it through." I stared at the eggs, not hungry. "What do you mean, not everyone?" She sat down across from me, looking exhausted. "People who leave Pine Haven and then come back for Christmas. The siren calls to them, stronger than it calls to those of us who stayed. I think it doesn't like being abandoned. It wants its children back." "That's insane." "Is it? You felt it last night. You heard your father's voice. Would you have been able to resist if I wasn't here?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. Maybe I would have opened that door. Maybe I would be out there now, wandering the streets with empty eyes, waiting for next Christmas Eve. "Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you tell me not to come back?" "Because you're my son, and I missed you." Her eyes filled again. "And because I hoped maybe it wouldn't call to you. Maybe you'd be safe. But I should have known better." I pushed my plate away. "I need some air. I'm going for a drive." "Nathan." "I'll be careful. I just need to get out of this house." I ended up at the corner store again, and Beth was there, looking as terrible as I felt. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "You made it through." "Barely. You?" "I don't think it calls to me as strongly. I'm not from here. But my husband." She looked around, then lowered her voice. "He stood at the window watching the whole time. Wouldn't move. I had to hold him back from opening the door. This morning, he doesn't remember any of it. Says I'm making things up." We stood there in silence for a moment. two people who'd seen the truth in a town full of willing blindness. Why does everyone just accept it? I asked. Why don't they leave? Where would they go? This is their home. Their families have been here for generations, and if they leave, they can never come back for Christmas. Can you imagine? Never seeing your family on Christmas again, knowing that if you do, something will try to take you. The people who get taken, they're the ones who tried to fight it, aren't they? The ones who asked too many questions or tried to stop it. Beth nodded. That's what I think. The town has a deal with whatever that siren is. Don't resist, don't investigate, don't talk about it. In return, it only takes a few each year. Your father broke the deal. The pieces were clicking into place. All those empty houses, all the people who supposedly moved away. The town had chosen them as sacrifices, and everyone went along with it because the alternative was worse. I have to leave, I said. I can't stay here. Then go, and don't come back. Not for Christmas, not ever. She grabbed a candy bar and headed to the checkout. I wish I could leave too, but I don't think my husband would survive the siren without me. Someone has to hold him back. I watched her go, feeling a mix of pity and admiration. She was trapped in Pine Haven, but at least she was fighting. At least she knew the truth. I told Mum I was leaving on the 27th. She didn't argue, just nodded and helped me pack. I understand, she said. I won't ask you to come back. Come with me. We could spend next Christmas at my place, or go somewhere else entirely. You don't have to stay here. She looked around the house, at the pictures on the walls, the furniture she'd had for 30 years, the memories embedded in every corner. This is my home, Nathan. I can't leave. Even knowing what's here, especially knowing what's here, someone has to remember, someone has to bear witness. She touched my face. But you should go. Live your life. Don't let this place keep you. We hugged for a long time before I left. As I loaded the last box into my car, I took one final look at the house where I grew up, the streets where I'd ridden my bike and played with friends. Pine Haven looked so normal in the winter sunlight, so peaceful and quaint. Nobody would ever guess what lurked beneath its surface. I drove through Riverside on my way out of town and saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a moving truck parked in front of the old Miller house. A family was unloading boxes, a mum, a dad, 2 kids. They looked dazed, confused, like they weren't quite sure how they'd gotten there or why they were moving into this particular house. I pulled over and rolled down my window. Excuse me, are you folks moving in here? The dad looked at me with blank eyes. Yes, good price. Really good price. Do you have family in Pine Haven? No, we heard it was a nice town, good for families. The mother was staring at the house with an odd expression, like she was trying to remember something important. The kids stood motionless beside her, not playing or exploring like kids usually did. Listen, I said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but you should leave, right now. Don't move into this house. We already bought it, the dad said, but he didn't sound sure. The papers are all signed. Then unsign them. Trust me. This isn't a place you want to raise your family. For a moment, I thought I saw recognition in the mother's eyes, like some part of her knew I was right, knew they'd made a terrible mistake. But then it faded, and she turned back to the truck. "Thank you for your concern," she said flatly, "but we're fine." I drove away, feeling sick. The town was already replacing its lost. The empty houses wouldn't stay empty for long. Pine Haven would lure in new families, new people who didn't know the rules, and eventually they'd feed the siren too. The cycle would continue, generation after generation, forever. It's been almost a year now. I'm sitting in my apartment 3 states away, and Mum is visiting for the holidays. We're spending Christmas here, far from Pine Haven. She seems lighter somehow, like a weight has lifted from her shoulders. She's even talking about not going back, about finding a place closer to me. "The town won't like it," she said yesterday, "but I don't care anymore. I spent 20 years there after your father was taken. That's enough." We've decorated my apartment, bought a small tree, planned a quiet Christmas Eve dinner. Normal things, safe things. I'm trying not to think about what's happening in Pine Haven right now. Whether Beth is still there, still fighting to keep her husband inside. Whether new families have moved into those empty houses. Whether the siren is still calling every Christmas Eve, claiming it's due. But tonight is Christmas Eve, and I can't help watching the clock. It's 9:40 right now. My friends are here, laughing and drinking wine, completely oblivious. Mum is in the kitchen, and I can see her glancing at the clock too. We haven't talked about it, but I know we're both thinking the same thing. 9:47. It's happening right now, hundreds of miles away. The siren is sounding in Pine Haven, and people are answering its call. But I'm safe here. I'm far away. Wait. Is that a siren in the distance? It's so faint I can barely hear it under the laughter and music. My friends don't react, don't seem to notice, but I can hear it. A low wail that makes my chest tighten and my stomach drop. Mum appears in the doorway, her face pale. She hears it too. It only lasts a few seconds, barely a whisper of sound. My friends are still laughing, still oblivious. But Mum and I lock eyes across the room, and I know what this means. The town hasn't forgotten me. The siren can reach farther than I thought. Maybe it gets fainter each year. Maybe eventually it'll fade away completely, and I'll be free. Or maybe it's just waiting for me to let my guard down, to think I'm safe, to forget that I'm still one of Pine Haven's children. Waiting for the year, I decide it's been long enough, that surely it's safe to visit now, that one Christmas back home won't hurt. The siren is patient, and the town always gets what it's owed. I'm never going back to Pine Haven for Christmas. I'll visit Mum in the summer, in the spring, any time but December. I'll keep my distance from that town and whatever lives there, calling out in the dark. But on Christmas Eve, at 9:47, I'll be listening. And I know the siren will be there too, faint but present, reminding me that some debts can never be fully paid, that some places never truly let you go, that some sounds once heard will echo in your bones forever.